Joaquim, you came to Malta to set up from scratch, so to speak, which is very important because you relied a great deal on the human capital. Did you find the expertise that you required?
No doubt about it.
And the ancillary services, auditors, firms and everything else.
Exactly. We came effectively to start from scratch. It was effectively from scratch. And we had to find in Malta all the quality for a Maltese bank to operate. And we found it. We have all the quality. We found it not only in the bank system, but around the bank system. So we could find all the skills, all the needs we had. And we have an extraordinary team working up. The only reason for the bank's success is that one.
The sector has grown so quickly, though. Looking forward, James, do you actually think that the Maltese, the people coming up through the ranks now, are going to be sufficient to meet the demands? The sector has grown exponentially over the last decade or so.
It has indeed, but I think the authorities are very much in line with the needs of the country and are making sure that the skills that are required are trained to be sufficient, because you can grow only to the extent that you can service the industry. I think there is awareness of that, and the whole education system is geared not only towards financial services, but other areas where there is an obvious need for more skills in IT and accounting and so on. So I think the authorities with the industry work together to identify the gaps and to make sure that there is a streaming towards producing the necessary human resources, because that is the essence of
course, you've got to look long term.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with James that I've been impressed with the quality of people available within the market. But I'd also note that over the last 15 years, there's been a dramatic change in the banking sector within Malta. Both the largest banks in Malta have been privatized over the last 15 years. And that has changed the whole setup and can-do atmosphere within Malta. So it's made a substantial difference. But Malta is also a very interesting early stage Singapore, but for the Mediterranean. So, the Singapore model was built...
Small, flexible, dynamic.
Correct. Built around financial services, built around tourism, built around transportation. On the transportation front, Malta has the 10th biggest container port in Europe. The government is working hard with Air Malta to make sure that services becomes world class. Banking services have been, really modernized. And it's incredible, even in the heart of the recession, the latest tourism data is really strong. So these packaged together make Malta a very interesting jurisdiction. But we understand that the basic economy is a small one. So people operating in Malta have to be looking out. And I've been impressed at how nimble both the financial services as well as the business community are, looking at the opportunities in North Africa, looking at the opportunities in the Middle East, looking at the Far East. And there's almost been a little bit of a shift that we're seeing taking place with the issues in Europe the challenges in Europe. You're seeing the business community and the financial services community turn around a little bit more and start facing outward to other parts of the world where there are opportunities.
Charles, of course, one of the dangers of this is that because there's been such phenomenal growth, we have to make sure that there are all the safeguards in place. Investors also want to be safeguarded against things like terrorism, money laundering, and so on. What can Malta offer on that regard?
It took Malta a number of years to become what we are today, an international financial services center of repute. And I agree entirely with Mark in the sense that we are small, nimble, the economy is small, but as yet we have managed to do well during this international crisis. The most important thing, however, is to ensure that we steer clear of the pitfalls, and therefore the importance of having a sound and stable regulatory framework. So we have to be very strong in terms of money laundering, we have to be very strong in terms of financing illicit activities and so on and so forth. And to be honest with you, Malta has succeeded in doing that. the KYC, the KYC rules and regulations and the money laundering regulations are very strong. And in fact, being part of Europe, that helped a lot because it gave Malta the credibility. I mean, because we have to adopt EU regulations in its entirety. And therefore, that gives us strong and robust framework so that we are able to cope with these pressures. So, to me, an international financial service center has to have a very strong regulatory and legal framework. And on that basis, you build your model. And I think we have that because obviously we are part of the European Union. And during the 15 years that Malta has become part of this framework, I think we have done extremely well in terms of putting in the safeguards and the safety net that ensures that all the business is licit business, and therefore it's a business that Malta needs. We don't need, Malta is a small place, we don't need all the business, we need the good business. And it's up to us as regulator and as main players in this economy. We need to identify the right business for Malta.
As the final question, perhaps I could ask all of you, what do you see, James, as the biggest challenge? I'll ask the same question to all of you. Biggest challenge for this sector in the next few years?
Well, I think you referred to the need to have skilled human resources in place, and I replied that the authorities are trying to be ahead of the curve in making sure that we have that skill. Because basically the regulatory infrastructure is in place. We got best in class for transposition of all the necessary legislation, and we got a clean certificate from money laundering from the Moneyval evaluation report, which took place earlier this year. Out of the 40+9 FATF recommendations, we didn't get a single non-compliance, so that was very good. So the regulatory side, the legislation is in place, the regulator is doing a good job, the regulator is accessible. We have other favorable elements, measurably lower costs, an efficient tax regime, and so on and so forth. It's the human element, I think, which is the secret of further success and growth. And I think, as I said, the authorities are ahead of the curve by trying to make sure that the gaps which are foreseen are plugged as of now through the education system going forward. I think that is one of the main necessities we have to focus.
Well, looking into the banker's side, I think the new wave of directives that are coming in the near future is also one of the things that has to be taken into consideration. I have no doubts that both the bank system as the regulators and politically thinking on the process too, the necessary measures are going to be taken. There is a lot of things still to be implemented. There is a lot of work still to be done. But looking back to what has been achieved up to now, looking to what we have today, and looking a little to what are the ability and the capability installed in Malta to get things ready to be done, I have no doubt about it that the future is a very smiling one to everyone in the financial system.
Charles.
I'm going to take a different perspective. Banks have traditionally been the shapers of the Maltese economy. And identifying the next generation of successful businesses and successful sectors is going to be our major challenge, in the sense that we have been successful in implementing the financial services sector as one of the main pillars of the economy. But what comes next? So, as a banking community, we need to identify the next success story or next success stories in order for us to be able to try and push forward. And that is the reason why we say that the banks are shapers of the economy. We push the new boundaries and the new sectors within the economy that will give us growth in the future. And therefore, we have an important role to play. I think the banking sector has a very important role to play in identification of the next important sectors within the economy, because we're a small economy and we depend on it.
I would see, the two main challenges I would see from the community, the financial services community perspective, is first I would agree with Joaquim that it's adopting and understanding and implementing the wave of new regulations, global regulations that are coming in. That is a challenge. But I'd also say, in a challenging environment around the world, I think the most important thing for us to do is to protect our reputation as a financial service centre. We have a good reputation and we have to guard that reputation jealously.
I think we've covered quite a lot of topics. I hope this brief insight into Malta as an international banking sector has answered some of your questions. I'm sure you'll find lots more information on the website if you require any more information. Thanks for being with us.